record in here. Here goes the encoder. Doop, doop, doop. And you are good to go.
All right, we're back with Terry and Gary's Low Expectations podcast. Today we have a double dose of guests. We have David Hayes and J.R. Adams. Oh, yeah, up, there you go. And of course,
what's going on, man? How's it going, man? Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Oh,
hey, Jay, you're not driving, are you?
No, I'm not actually driving. I pulled over so that we can.
Okay,
that would be great.
Make the show interesting.
I was gonna say we're gonna have to stop.
You see it going like this. Whoa! Yeah, that wouldn't be good.
I'm gonna share this. You go ahead, Terry.
All right. Well, all right, Gary. Gary always puts me on the spot like this. I don't know how to open up this.
It's open. It's open.
Well,
Just dive in.
Yeah, Jay, you and I go way back. We've wrestled before.
Indeed.
You've put me through the ring several times, whether it's a body slam or choke slam.
It's only because I'm so tall. I mean, you're just used to shorter guys. When shorter guys body slam you, it doesn't hurt as much because it's not as far.
And my favorite part of working for XICW, and this is no lie, Gary, you'll appreciate this, and Dave. Every time your wife would come in, for some reason, I would have my shirt off. You remember that?
Yeah, and it was for some reason. Yeah.
Why would I like that?
Because whenever she'd come in, I'd give her a hug, and then like the fifth or sixth time, she's like, "You always have your shirt on," and I'm like, "Well, it's not my purpose. Or you never have your shirt on." I'm like, "Well, it's not my purpose," wink, wink, nod, nod. So that became a running gag. One time I had my shirt on and I had to take it off.
Well, you're a lucky guy because usually the guy, the boys, she would not let a sweaty guy hug her. So
Right.
only me, you, and Jamie Cox, I believe, is the only people. And actually, even me, I can't really hug her all that much when I'm sweating. But for some reason, you are allowed. So.
Right. That was a fun little running gag. So give her a shirtless hug for me. Tell her I miss her.
Oh yeah, and then she'll be disgusted by me like normal. All right.
Sounds like me and my ex-wife's relationship. Gary, did you share it?
Yes, I did.
All right.
I was just thinking about you shirtless.
Oh, yeah. Well, I've got a special shirt on. I was showing everybody earlier. I survived quarantine watching Gilmore Girls. And then we were talking about the Murder, She Wrote, and we were talking about Golden Girls. So.
Yeah, I know Dave's the same way. We're classic TV guys, man. We love that classic TV stuff.
We're old too.
Well, I was saying classic. I wasn't using the word old. I was using the word classic. So
I try and get every conversation rolled back around to Angela Lansbury because she's my girl.
Right. Seems like everybody grew up watching those shows with their grandparents.
Yeah.
My grandmother actually reminded me a lot of Angela Lansbury. She had the same haircut, and she was so I always equate Angela Lansbury to my grandmother who's passed on. But yeah, it's pretty funny.
That haircut was a plague then.
Yeah.
That particular old lady haircut there was a plague of those. I mean, everyone had it.
Yeah.
Hey Jay, I got a question for you, Jay. Why does everybody keep saying, does Jay still have PTSD from having to get a full body shave on the radio?
That's because your friend Pat the Weirdo decided to chime in. All right, so years ago, I used to, before I was even wrestling, I used to do a show called Dominski and Doyle here in Detroit. And Pat Mendez, Pat the Weirdo, was also one of the strange characters that was on the show. For some reason, we decided to do a trivia contest, and whoever lost would have to get their whole body shaved. I still, to this day, I don't think that I lost because it was supposed to, I rang in first, but he got called. So, but regardless, I took it like a man. I went ahead and I got shaved. It was pretty funny because I had a wrestling show. It's actually right when I started wrestling. I was wrestling for Eddie Farhat out in Lansing. And the next weekend I had to go out there and wrestle, and I did not have any hair anymore. So I had to kind of come up with an idea on the fly of why I was all of a sudden shaved bald. And so I just got attacked in the parking lot by some other bad guy wrestlers. That's all.
How many bushels of hair did you get off, and where did you donate it?
Well, that was before. I mean, that was before my long beard. I had I had a goatee and but I had shorter hair. I mean, it was way before the long hair and the beard, but and I was younger then, so I didn't have as much body hair as I do now. So it wasn't too bad.
You can stuff a pillow now. That's crazy.
Oh yeah, just with this stuff.
Call it your pillow.
And your back.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Let's not talk about that.
I don't know. I'm 97% Sasquatch. I get how it works.
Yeah, if the 3% is up here, right? The 3% that's not.
And the soles of my feet. That's the only thing.
Bald is beautiful. I got you.
So, Terry, actually, Terry, which should be interested in this. Me and Dave have talked, and I've even talked to the family. I don't know if there's been any kind of progression since then, but Dave has a great idea to do a Georgie Animal Steel biopic.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So when I was briefly wrestling, I looked similar with the body hair and the absolute awfulness, and I can't work, so that fits for at least me. But yeah, I think when George died, I just thought we're maybe missing a boat here on some very cool biopic, because he did some really cool stuff. From a teacher to wrestling on only in the summer. We would hit WrestleMania and then go back and teach shop and gym. So it was crazy stuff. But yeah, no movement, but still holding out. Right? Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, my wife actually went to that school where he taught Madison Heights.
No kidding.
Yeah. See, he actually, I'll tell you a quick story. It was one of the guys in WWE. It was like a producer, and he had just started. And what George Steele, that he's obviously older now, but when George Steele would go work for Vince's dad and do TVs, like in, I think they used to do Hershey, Pennsylvania, and a couple other towns in Pennsylvania. George Steele would go sit in the TV truck, because a couple of the buildings didn't have air conditioning in the locker room, right? So it was just sweltering, right? So, and his excuse was, he's like, I'm going to sit in here and change and, just kind of watch how you guys are doing things, because this is something I'd want to do after I'm done wrestling, work in the TV truck. And anyways, they'd look over at him and he's not paying attention. They finally figured out he was in there just because it was air conditioned.
That's smart. You got to find where the most comfortable place to change, man. That's for sure.
And I totally popped. I'm like, and they never said anything to him, and I'm like, yeah, that's a veteran move right there. Yeah, you guys just do what you guys got to do. I'm just going to watch. I want to do this job when I'm done in the ring. But he was, he started way back in the 60s, maybe earlier.
Yep.
Yeah. And then he hit with WWE, and it was just such a professional, so fun to work with, and just such a great character. And, you joke and say, oh, didn't know how to work and this and that, and you kind of would do his character. But he actually knew how to work, because I remember watching something on him, and Andre said, body slam. And then George Steele went to pick him up, and then he sold his back. And Andre said, Andre would let you body slam him, but he knew you didn't know how to work, because you don't slam a giant, right?
Right.
So he would tell people to do that to see if they would actually do it. And if they didn't do it, he knew they knew how to work, So
that was a good
that summer thing really worked for him too. So like teaching during the year and then only showing up in the summer, then George hit that attraction status where you knew he was going to show up in the summers and you were kind of looking forward to it. And he hit right when I was a kid, like 82, 83. And yeah, just we found out he was from Michigan, and you're like, oh yeah,
right.
And that's what's so cool about him too, because that was late in his career. Like Terry said, he had gotten started way earlier, so he hit very late in his career. But he was part of some of the most iconic matches that we know about him, kidnapping Miss Elizabeth, and I mean some iconic matches that we've all grown up with. It's pretty cool.
And then the turnbuckle.
Yeah, you're gonna play him.
Yeah, that was the goal. So I retired from acting for a while because I'm not very good at it. But I think that I could have done a really good job with him, with that character.
What do you got there, Gary?
Bloody Bible camp.
I'm
going to be shutting this off right now and leaving.
No, I'm excited to hear about this Bloody Bible camp or whatever it was.
I don't know if you can see it, but Can you see it?
Is that what we're going
it,
to talk about right now?
it kind of gets in with the green screen, so you can't.
Oh,
I'm excited.
Bible Camp, signed by
So
David.
even Zoom hates Bloody Bible Camp.
It's this thing I got behind me. Look at that face.
Well, explain a little bit of it, Dave, if you don't mind.
Oh, sure. So it's a movie, and it's set in the 80s. So it's like one of those slasher movies set in the 80s. And it stars Reggie Bannister from Phantasm, if you remember him. And I'm in it. What's his name? Tim Sullivan, director of 2001 Maniacs, is a part of it. And Ron Jeremy's in it. He plays Jesus. And
Wow.
it's messed up, and so it's a lot of fun. It's really just it's a funny rip on these camp slaughter movies from the 80s, and yeah, it's pretty rude. There's so much nudity, it's insane. And the one was we were in Big Bear shooting that for probably 6-7 weeks, and we got there. There's a lot of full frontal nudity in this movie because that's what the 80s was like. You know, there's lots
of you.
no, but they'd want to make some money, so they said no, don't do that. I do have a shirtless scene though, I think. Besides the point, but when we got there, so you realize in the 80s there was lots of pubic hair on everybody, and no one had pubic hair. None of the young female ingenues had pubic hair in this movie. So the effects guy had this table with merkins laid out, and he would apply the merkins for the shoot. And I see that, and I realize what I've gotten myself into, and we're off to the races.
Well, you could have just shaved your back, and then you could have just had all the hair.
Right. For at least 6 or 7 of them, but what do the other 3 do? I mean, that's the hard part.
Well, I love the movie. Me and the wife have watched it, and we love it. And we also enjoy watching the other one called Werewolves in Heat. That was a good one too.
Oh, that was great, wasn't it?
Comedy. Why don't you tell us about that one, Dave? Because I love that one too.
You know, I have literally never seen that one.
What? I'll send you a copy.
Oh, I have a copy.
Oh.
I've never seen it. I shot my parts for it, and so the story is there's this young Jewish kid who runs into this woman he thinks is incredibly beautiful, and she's a Nazi werewolf. And he has to call up his rabbi to get advice on how to handle a Nazi werewolf. And I play his rabbi over Snapchat over the course of a few interactions, telling him what he should do with the things. So that's all I know about it. The rest, I haven't seen the rest.
The movie should have been pretty quick. You should have just been saying, "Stay away from her." Period. That's it. End the movie.
Good. I should have. But I think we wwent into an explanation of how the shocker works and other awful, terrible things.
Nice.
I've got to find this movie.
Man, I'm now regretting coming on Terry and Gary's Low Expectations. You're just pulling out all the skeletons. You're
That's Gary. See, I'm a little more professional.
He's not done. Oh, great.
No, he's not done.
We'll give it a break for a second.
Oh, my past. My past.
Now, if someone, we all have a past, especially Gary and I, not together, but.
What?
No, that's our past, Terry.
Right. We'll save that for the main event of this podcast. But no. Now, if someone's interested in looking at one of those movies, where can they find it? Where can they get it? Is it on Netflix and stuff like that? Because there's a lot of fans out there that like the horror movies and different genre of movies, and yeah, exactly. And there's a big market for it. And I mean, where can someone find something like that?
So I'm still a really big horror fan, and I'm all over this stuff. And I don't keep track of my old stuff like I should, but I think Bloody Bible Camp is on Prime right now.
On Tubi too.
On Tubi too, and so but Rotten Tail is as well. And Rotten Tail is the one of the latest movies I wrote. It came out in April in theaters. And Giant Mutant Easter Bunny, Killing Spree. It's so ridiculoly stupid. It stars Corey Nemec from Parker Lewis Can't Lose, because classic TV.
Now, do you find fans out there, they because I've done some Whorehound signings and stuff like that, and it seems like there's a lot of fans, they like movies like that, and they really and they they like low budget, if some silly horror movies, some I mean, do you find that a lot in the horror film and all that stuff?
Yeah. So the cool part about horror movies is that with a horror movie, you don't need Tom Hanks and you don't need, Ewan McGregor. The fans are going to find it based on the content. So they'll give anything a shot. And that's the cool part about it. And so if I do Horror Hound, I used to do those and Days of the Dead and the Comic-Cons. And when I was acting a lot more, I would, the best fans would come up with the most obscure references to stuff you did like 15, 20 years ago. I mean, I did a couple of Lionsgate movies in the early 2000s called Machined and Reborn. And I still get people coming up saying, "Oh yeah, you're Motorman Dan, and you killed all them people." Like, it's still kind of creepy too. Thanks. But yeah, the content is what drives it.
Yeah, there's like you said, the Horror Hound, but then there's Motor City Nightmares. I mean, there's conventions specifically for the horror genres, and they're huge, man. It's they'll bring in some of the older guys from the 80's and the old leather faces and stuff like that, and they just clean up, man, because people just love that stuff. I go to Motor City Nightmares every year because it's a blast.
It's fun. I had a table. I was a guest at one of the old Fangoria cons, and on one side of me was Gunnar Hansen, the original Leatherface from Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and on the other side was R.A. Milohoff, the other Leatherface from Texas Chainsaw 3. And so they've got these
wrestler.
massive lines, and I got like one sweaty fat kid in front of me who's just there to sit because there's an open space. So there's no fans in front of me, and he's got these lines. And this kid walks up to Gunnar Hansen with one of the McFarlane Maniacs Leatherface figures. And he goes to get it signed, and Gunnar won't sign it. And the kid is just pitching a bitch, and Gunnar's like, "There's no way I'm going to sign that action figure for you." And the other Leatherface on the side of me is like, "Hey, sign that kid's fucking figure." And so the Leatherfaces are having this argument around me. And he's like, "I'm not going to sign it. They don't pay me for this." And the Leatherface number 3 said, "You don't own the mask, asshole." And Gunner's like, "But that's my gut." Like, oh God, he's trying to get royalties for his gut.
Right.
Well, RA is also a former pro wrestler.
Yep.
He was cool. I talked to him for a little bit, and I think he worked for WCW back in the day. He had a couple matches with them. I mean, he and then got into the acting and was a Leatherface. But I talked to him all about the business for a little while. It was pretty cool.
He's in a paranormal hunting group with Kane Hodder.
Oh wow. It sounds reasonable. I mean, it sounds reasonable. That sentence doesn't like go, wow, that's weird.
It's perfectly reasonable, and ghosts are probably terrified of those two walking into a room.
I think you should write something for JR. I mean, he'd be an awesome Michael Myers.
As much as my career that I got into to do stunts, but I do acting and stuff. That's always been like a goal, as I want to be some kind of horror movie monster. I've done a couple of shorts where I've done short films where I've done, I've been a monster and stuff like that in a mask. But yeah, that'd be pretty cool to be able to one of these days. That's one of the goals. That's one of the bucket list things that I'll do.
That's actually a goal I can make happen, though.
Yeah. I'm waiting, man.
My small skill set is making people into horrible human beings.
Checking my phone for the text message, Dave. I don't see it yet.
Send them some headshots.
Will you work for peanut butter?
That's all I do work for. Actually, that's nice. Usually, I'm used to working for peanuts. So if you give me peanut butter, man, that's even better.
On your way in, buy me a coffee. I'll pay you later.
Oh, I got you.
No, I think we've worked for the same people, Jay. You and I, so both working for peanuts.
Hey, yeah, absolutely. That's why I got in. I wrestled for 12 years, 13 years, whatever it was, and once I started getting into the film business, I was like, wow, I'm doing all the same stuff, but I'm getting paid a whole lot better. I mean, this is great.
And there's catering too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, that's the best part. Oh.
Right.
So now, you're a hockey player, right?
I am indeed. Well, I go out there and play. I wouldn't necessarily say I'm a player, but
I have an amazing idea for a hockey horror movie.
I like it already.
So I love the 80s slasher movies, right? And they always took place like the baseball one's called The Catcher, and there's at a camp. So, hockey slasher, it's called the Sin Bin.
Ah, the sin bin, the penalty box. It's called the sin bin. I like it.
Yeah. All right, we'll get together
And
on
you could
this.
actually, yeah, you could actually do a lot of cool stuff to that with a really cool goalie mask that's like half
Yep.
broken, and then that would be pretty sweet.
And
Sorry,
the
we're
skates
writing a
are
movie
sharp
on your
and-
podcast, guys. Sorry about that.
Yeah,
Why not?
for extras. You know?
So, what are you two doing?
Right.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Gary and Terry in J. Adams Sin Bin.
I like it.
Yeah, I've been there.
I've done a
There,
horror.
there's
film.
there's another
Go ahead.
movie called that, but don't look that one up. So.
Is it a short? Because if it's a short, it doesn't matter. No, I'm serious. I wanted to do like, I love situational slasher movies. I want to do a golf one called The Caddy.
That's scary.
We'll get there.
Silent,
Make your dreams come true, Jay Adams.
Right. Gary and I will get killed first. So
please.
yeah, I did a small part in a movie with Kurt, and it was a slasher movie, and my buddy and I, we were bikers, and we got killed first.
Nice.
I think we're
played-
first or second.
I played. That's one of the things that I play the most is a biker, and
Yeah.
a biker, prisoner. You know, that's it. But that's the biker is always the go-to. I've been at for quite a few projects.
Yeah. I usually was stuck with the maniac or the dumb friend. And a lot of dumb friend.
I don't
We
see
get a
it.
lot of that.
I don't see it at all. Oh yeah, okay, I do.
Now, you guys, obviously, Jay, I've known you for years, and you're very funny and entertaining. And I told him if I ever hit the lotto, I'm going to hire him just to, make me laugh all day, and I'll pay him really well.
I'm still waiting for that.
What do you guys think of like movies like, like the spoof movies, the comedy horror movies, like A Haunted House? That's like one of my favorite. Like, does your world kind of look down on that? Because sometimes, you guys know in wrestling, like real amateur wrestlers, they kind of look down on pro wrestling and, oh, that's all nonsense. We're the real deal. Now, on the horror movie, do you guys look down on like when people make comedy horror movies or,
Like the spoofs, not so. I mean, not at all. Does anyone look down on it? There's a couple of different. There's the spoof ones like The Haunted House and Scary Movie, and then like real horror comedies like Evil Dead and Army of Darkness.
right?
But if you look at like the spoof ones, that's great because there has to be your audience for that has to have a knowledge of the real horror movies for these to be funny. So it's really just a progression. It's a knowledge base sort of thing.
Okay.
Yeah, Scary Movie was one of the great ones because it took so many, and Scary Movie 2, it took all the different movies and then made fun of all of them kind of at once, and that one was always a good one. I really enjoyed that. Yeah, I don't look down upon it. One of my favorite things is comedy. Yeah, I love horror and stuff like that, but one of my favorite genres is comedy, and to do it well. And just to, as a spoof or whatever, I'm into it no matter what. I just love if it makes me laugh, I'm into it. I don't care what it is.
Right.
Yeah, most of my work, like Bloody Bloody Bible Camp, is a horror comedy. I mean, it can't be anything else. It's a giant transvestite killer nun. So
Yeah, sounds hilarious already.
that isn't Jay for a change.
It's 2020, life imitating art. You never know.
That's just another Tuesday night for me.
Oh, hey-oh.
That Tuesday.
Whoa.
So let's
Gary,
get into
you're there.
anyway.
Right.
Hey, let's talk about your guys' wrestling careers. I know, David, you wrestled a little bit in your
A little
past.
bit.
And Jay, you are an actual Hall of Famer, correct? And you get inducted in the Hall of Fame last year?
Somehow. Yeah, I'm in a couple of different Hall of Fames. The XICW, which is the one I'm really most proud of just because that was kind of my home promotion run by DBA, and it's got a storied legacy. I mean, it started out as ICW with DBA's dad, Sweet Daddy Malcolm Monroe, and it's one of the longest running promotions in Michigan, and it was my home. DBA is a brother to me. Jamie Cox is a brother to me. Those guys, I wrestled there for years, and I wrestled Terry there. So that one I'm really proud of to be a part of the Hall of Fame in that. And I'm also a part of the Hall of Fame in War Wrestling down in Ohio, which is probably, in all honesty, my favorite place outside of Michigan that I've wrestled. We had a great set set up down there. We were the Michigan Invasion and had a good 4-year run with that. And those are Lima, Ohio is some rabid fans, and they were great. They always were great, and so that's another one that I'm in the Hall of Fame, and I'm pretty proud of.
I'm always curious to see how, like, I know you made it to actual, you've been on SmackDown before too. How was that transition? Was that something exciting for you? Was that something you was working towards, or was this?
Yeah. I mean, I had a few dark matches for WWE. I had a SmackDown match. I had a Heat match. I got to the point in wrestling where I was not, I wouldn't get nervous anymore. I would be more excited for the match. But there's still, that's a huge, Terry can attest. I mean, it's a different thing wrestling in front of 300 people as to 17,000 people. And it's an adrenaline rush, especially being in your hometown. When I wrestled on SmackDown, it was at Joe Louis Arena, which I spent years going and watching wrestling there. And it was, it was my hometown. The same fans that are around ringside that pay for the expensive seats, those are the guys that are also at all the indie shows that know you. So I was wrestling under my real name, Jay Adams, and I'm a heel, and they started a Eddie chant. Eddie Venom is what I wrestled at. So that was pretty cool to do that at Joe Louis Arena. But it is definitely nerve-wracking. I mean, it is, no matter how prepared you are, when you're used to wrestling in front of 300 to 500 fans, and you walk out there and there's 17,000 fans, or even more. I got to be a druid for Undertaker and carry a torch out to the ring at WrestleMania at Ford Field. 85,000 people. When you walk out that curtain and see that can get you going, especially when you're carrying a giant torch that's on fire and you're trying not to catch the guy in front of you on fire. It's pretty amazing. I had a lot of fun with my wrestling career. I loved it. But I broke my back in 2011, and it was to the point where I was getting more and more injuries the older I got, and I really wasn't trying to get into the WWE anymore. I didn't want to do that schedule. I didn't want to be on the road 300 days a year. So it was just time for me to step out and do something else, find my next chapter in my life, and that's when I got into the stunt work, and I got into the business just to do stunt work, but it kind of transitioned into also getting me some acting gigs and stuff like that as well, where I'm not necessarily doing stunts, but so always funny when people ask me, well, why'd you retire from wrestling? I said, well, I broke my back, and they said, and then you got into stunt work. That makes a whole lot of sense. And but we're a lot. It's a lot safer on set. We got a lot more padding that I fall into than I do wrestling.
Well, no,
I was in the Southwest. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, not to interrupt, but I remember that transition because we were working a lot together, and you brought up Malcolm and DBA, and Malcolm Senior and DBA and the whole Monroe family. But yeah, DBA XICW is the longest running promotion, even the Sheik's promotion longer than that, and all that stuff. So yeah,
and it's black owned. And it's black owned, which is a big deal too, as far as wrestling promotions. There's not a ton of black owned wrestling promotions, and this is one of the the longest running ones in the country.
Right, and then that's one of the things I always, and that was like the building they would run and all that stuff. And Malcolm was the first person his dad was the first person I worked for in the States, and it's funny because Scott. He called Scott Demora, the guy that trained me, and he goes, hey, I want to use your guy. And he goes, one condition. He goes, what? And he goes, you beat him. And Malcolm wanted to put me over, right? So I never understood why he put me under a mask. And Scott's like, well, he needs to learn how to wrestle and this and that, and I don't want him to get a push and it go to his head and, this and this, right? So Malcolm was like, okay, cool. They had that respect for each other. And later on, that's why I figured, that's why he put me under a hood. So when I wasn't done, when he wasn't done, or when he was done beating me, then he could do something with me. So, but I was the Avenger.
Wow, that's why. Are you sure it was that's why he put you under a hood? I mean, I'm just saying.
An ugly face like this, you gotta show the fans so they can run and tear.
You gotta have somebody to boo, right?
Right.
What were you gonna say, Dave?
Oh, I'm saying, look, I moved back from the Southwest, and the first live match that I saw when I got back to Michigan was Eddie Venom at Motor City Comic Con.
Oh yeah, we had a blast at the Motor City Comic
Yeah.
Con. Yeah, we wrestled there a couple of years.
We don't
That
really
was a
mention
great.
them, but that's okay.
Well, yeah, yeah, they haven't booked me in years, so I don't care about them. But we had a great setup. It was before Motor City Comic Con didn't use part of the building because they weren't as big as they are now.
Mhm.
We had a great setup. We had the ring there, and we would draw huge crowds. But Billy D was we're in the same kind of giant room. There was one panel room that there was there, and Billy D. Williams got mad because the noise from the wrestling, and we never gone back since.
Not allowed in Cloud City ever again.
Yeah. But
Now,
hey, the Monroe Pop Fest. I mean, you got that whole outdoor area. That'd be perfect for wrestling.
I'd love to. We talked about bringing our IWR to some shows here, so we'll see.
Nice.
We gotta
I'd
get back
volunteer
on-
to ring
gotta get
announce
back out
there.
What'd you say?
I'd volunteer to ring announce. My bumping days are long
Oh
gone.
no, me you gotta go at it.
Now, Dave, when did you break in, and where did you work? Who broke you in, and how did that come
All right,
about?
so it was mainly in the Southwest. So I went to Michigan State here, and I wrestled a little bit and blew my knees out. And then we moved to Phoenix, my wife and I was doing a lot of theater at the time. And so I decided to explore a little later in life. I was like 25, 26, maybe 27 just to start the wrestling. And so I was working with Charlie Cox, had a promotion called X Jam in the Southwest. And I was learning some things from Navajo Warrior, who kind of brought me in there. And so I had a few matches. I went under Joe Brony. I never won. I lost every match, and that was kind of the gimmick. 0-1,000 was the tagline. And
I love that
just
name
got
though, Joe Brony. That name,
Yeah,
that's
it
a great
was,
name.
Well, I kept the web
Famous.
domain, so just in case. But so he was booked out of Michigan. Never won. Lions Royal Blue was the thing, and the finisher was the D-Town Shuffle, which meant I ran away and got counted out. So I didn't I didn't get beat up. And it worked it was a comedy gimmick. It worked really well for a while, and it got to be, after a few matches, the knees were starting to go again. So I transitioned into more color stuff because I was doing a lot of theater and acting, and I was doing color for EXW out of Phoenix when Derek Nykirk owned that. And then that pretty much ended it all.
Yeah.
I left there when that ended.
Well, then you
No.
did some ring announcing for a promotion in Brighton as well, too, right?
Oh yeah. Oh, what were those guys? That was
That was was that
Christopher
Kid Hybrid?
Orlando's.
Yeah.
Yeah, Christopher
Orlando
Orlando's
Christmas.
outfit. And so I was doing some color there. I don't know. It may have come out at some point. I haven't seen anything, but oh yeah. But I've called more matches that have never actually been shown anywhere on the planet than I can shake a stick at.
Oh yeah,
But
for as many.
my first ring announcing gig is when I was talking about in that chat, is when Scotty Norton beat me up, and he's like, "Hey, when you bring me out, say my name wrong, and we're gonna do a thing." I'm like, "Oh, okay." I was figuring, Scotty's gonna push you and just chase you out of the ring, and I did not get details because I did not know that you had to get specific details from Mr. Norton about what he's going to do to you. And so I mess his name up, and he just lays a beat down on me, like super stiff. And I roll out of the ring. I tore my suit coat that I had bought at the Goodwill for that show. It really pissed me off.
Right.
Yeah, he's a strong son of a gun, man. So yeah, I would not look forward to that. Good, better you than me.
I had a good 6 inches on him, but it didn't matter. It literally didn't matter.
Yeah. Now,
But that's
when did you transition over into film and stuff like that, or were you doing it both at the same time?
I was doing it pretty much at the same time. So I started in doing like theater and stuff in Chicago when I was there, and that was a lot of fun. And I got learned some chops there. And then my wife and I moved to Phoenix, and we kind of used that as the base of operations. And I was working in LA and Mexico and Vegas and doing little indie B movie stuff, and just fell into wanting to explore the wrestling again. And it worked out with X Jam, and did some shots there and didn't die, which is a miracle.
Right.
It's always good.
Yeah.
Now, do you find? Oh, go ahead.
No, I'm good.
Now, do you find it difficult to? What's more difficult? A lot of wrestling fans, You guys make it look easy when you call a match, but you got to tell that story, not just of the match, but the angle, this and that. And I try to explain to a lot of people, and Eddie knows, when you're in Gorilla, right before you go out in those arenas, that you got Vince on the headset, you got all these people talking to you in your ear, you got people from the truck counting you down, and all this stuff. And to be an announcer, obviously on an independent promotion, you don't have all that stuff, but you also have to tell a story and get it over, the angle over. Do you find that more difficult than the in the ring work?
I always found the in the ring work much more difficult, and that's for me. And I think I never got enough experience to actually feel comfortable in the ring, but as the acting career and being a novelist and writer and all kinds of fun things, the storytelling aspect's a lot of fun. And you guys know, when you're in the indies, there's no opportunity to tell a story week to week.
Right.
You're doing a month here and a month there, and you're bringing somebody in to face your champion. So I find the best part about doing color or even ring announcing and smaller shows is you're creating the story right there. And I think that's the most fun for me. It's like the ultimate improv as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, you almost have to be able to improv and stuff like that, when you're on that indie level, and you're not following a story that progresses, so week to week. So definitely it is difficult. Eddie, did you find it difficult to transition into stunt work and stuff?
Well, I found that the wrestling helped me immensely. I already had that basis, because, wrestling is a lot more than just the physical moves. Wrestling is, like you said, working with the crowd, knowing what the crowd wants, knowing what the crowd needs, to be honest, to get them up or to bring them back down. So that helped a lot because, especially too with wrestling, a lot of facial, acting with your face, making the crowd, emoting to the crowd with just your face. I mean, that really has helped a lot with as far as acting and stuff like that. Right. So I kind of had a little, nice little jump start, which helped me out. And I still, with stunt work, I mostly focus on, I specialize in fight scenes and stuff like that. I'll do some other stuff, ATV work and, some motorcycle stuff, but, the fight scenes are really where I specialize in. And so, yeah, the wrestling absolutely helped me quite a bit. I did have to transition a little bit because, wrestling, we're used to hitting each other. I mean, right. Punches actually hit each other. In film, my punches are 1.5 feet away from the guy. So, but you learn how to make it look real, and you learn how to use your camera angles so that I can be 1.5 feet away from the guy, but yet it still looks like I just took his head off. Right. So, it's definitely a transition. You have to learn to save your body more too, actually, because wrestling, you're bumping, you're going straight to your back, boom, boom, boom. I was doing that a lot, and their stunt guys were like, "Man, you're killing your body, man. Roll a little bit. You don't have to do that. You can find a way to do that. You got to roll. You got to use your body the right way to, so that you can extend your career." So it was a little bit of transition, but that definitely the wrestling definitely gave me a head start for sure.
Did you think it was difficult? So in wrestling, you're like, and you and Terry know, and you're playing to 17,000 people, right? So everything has to be really big. Did you have to tone it down for the camera?
Yeah, well, yeah, but actually I usually tell people, if it's too big on camera, it's not going to look right. Obviously, like you said, when you're a live show, even on TV, wrestling is all about being over the top. So you have to make it big. You have to make giant, so people can tell what you're doing, because that's how you're telling your story. You don't have dialogue during that to tell a story. You're doing it physically. And so with, film and with stunts, it's a little bit different because you have a little bit of dialogue that you can use to tell the story. You're mostly accentuating the story. The story isn't necessarily the fight. Wrestling, the story is the fight. With film, the story is not necessarily the fight. It just accentuates the story. So it's a little bit different. And I was pretty big with my movements a lot. I had to tone it down to make it look like more of a real fight.
And Terry, so
Oh.
so on Impact, and I'm a big fan of Impact too. I watch
Oh.
every week. Thank you
Thanks.
very much for your work. But now with the COVID things, people can hear the in-ring dialogue. Has that changed how you approach it?
Yeah, because usually I'm joking around with the guy I'm wrestling.
Yeah.
And,
I
you
can
know,
attest. I can attest to that. Yes, he would try to make me laugh every time we wrestled. So.
Right. Well, so sometimes, I'll say some stuff and I'll try to get the guy to laugh, I mean, obviously you want to take it serious and stuff like that. And there's a couple inside jokes that you want to do, but, it's a very serious thing out there. But, every once in a while you'll throw a little, something out there that he'll get and they'll laugh. But one more question I have, Gary.
Yes.
Now, was it hard for you to transition from a business relationship with me to a friendship relationship with?
Oh, I'm still in the business relationship. I don't know what you're talking about.
I thought you were going to stop at transition. That's where I thought the sentence was going to end.
You're just a big teddy bear, so it's pretty easy to transition into the friendship, realm. So.
Well, that's what's funny about Terry. I mean, before I met Terry in person, I only seen him on TV. I had seen him on, especially ECW days, and he was a raving lunatic, and he was just a massive, mean guy that you didn't want to mess with. And then I meet Terry, and just one of the sweetest individuals on the face of the earth. So it's pretty funny. But that's, I'm kind of that too. When I'm in character, when I'm wrestling, I try to be the meanest guy that you can see. But I'm not really like that. I'm pretty sweet.
Your goofy friends.
Yeah, I always loved, like Terry was saying, I always loved wrestling him because it was always fun in the ring, because he would joke around with me, I would joke around, we'd tickle each other. You go into a pin and you'd give a little tickle. It's like, just try to get the other guy to do, or untie their boots. That was always a good one when you got somebody.
One thing I always liked is, I haven't done it in a while, is a wet willy. I'll call it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. I think you've done that to me. You said wet willy, and you did it. I'm like, oh. And how am I supposed to react to that? I'm supposed to be.
I'll never forget. I was wrestling this one guy, and I clotheslined him over the top rope, and it was for XICW and Warren there. And as he goes over the top rope, he hikes up his trunks, so he's got like a wedgie, and he falls back, and he sits on the crowd, the fans in the front row, because there's no guardrail there, right? It's just small enough where you can't fit the guardrails in there. And all of a sudden I see him sitting on them, and everybody's trying to scatter, and he's holding one person down, and everybody's laughing, and the person he's sitting on their lap, they're laughing, trying to get away. And I'm like, that's a bigger reaction than what it should be, right? So I didn't know he did it, right? And then as he gets up and he turns around, he looks at him, he's like, what? I can see his butt hanging out. and that's one of the things I like about independent wrestling shows and stuff. You can go do that stuff, have fun, and you see stuff you wouldn't see on TV, and you experience different things that you wouldn't experience on TV. And that's why I always encourage people, if they're a wrestling fan, check out local promotions. So.
Yeah, I always tell people that too, because as much fun as it is watching it on TV, when you go to an independent show, you have that intimate feeling. Like, instead of, even if you go to see a WWE show at LCA or something, you're usually hundreds of feet away. You literally will have somebody land in your lap, and you're that close to it. You can see the action, and you can be, and then I think what that does is it helps the audience feel like they're part of the show.
Right.
Like you said, somebody lands and sits on your lap, and they feel like they're going to go home, and they're like, remember that when he landed on me? That was great, and they feel like they're part of the show. So I always encourage that, if you're a wrestling fan, take your kids and check out an independent show, because it's so much more real when you see it that way.
Yeah, and plus some
agree.
of the stuff the fans say, you can really hear it, and it's so personal, and it's hilarious.
Oh, when you were on the set of Batman, Jay, did Batman give you a wet willy? Or
Yeah, it was weird. It didn't. I was expecting the Superman statue to do something weird, and it just didn't. So
Right.
They're not very professional there, you know.
What was being on that show like? That was one of your first major films, right?
Yeah, that was probably my first major big one. Yeah, I'd done a couple other smaller things. I did a 5-hour energy commercial that had run nationally, and I'd done some smaller stuff, but that was my biggest. That was my first time having a trailer. It was cool. I was booked as a Metropolis police officer, and just to see a production that big with that kind of budget, to see how that works is really cool. Just to see all the behind the scenes stuff. And I got to work with the director, Zack Snyder. I got to work with Scoot McNairy, who has been on a lot of stuff. He played the guy in the wheelchair, and I got to interact with him. And Zack Snyder gave me a line. I didn't even have a line. He gave me a line. It was just a really cool experience, and it really got my, you know, I was still pretty new into everything, and it really got the fire burning in me that I made the right choice, and this is what I want to pursue.
And
you're part of the DC universe.
Yeah.
I am a part of the DC universe, and I'm also part of the Marvel universe because I was in an episode of The Punisher. So technically, I'm in both universes, and I just need to get into the Star Wars universe, and then my bucket list will be complete. So.
Be totally owned by Disney.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So if I was guessing, I'd think you would spend all your money from Batman on lottery tickets because I see you every week. It seems like buying lottery tickets.
Yeah. Yeah, that Lotto commercial, that was one of my favorites because I had a early, like 6 a.m. call time, but they filmed it 7 blocks from my house, and it was a nice, easy commercial. So I got there, I was back in my own bed by like 8:30 in the morning. It was just great. That's another one. They dressed me up as a biker. I basically looked like Opie from Sons of Anarchy.
Speaking of Opie, I mean, you've done a lot of your work for Ryan Hurst, correct?
Yeah, that was one of my biggest breaks. There was a show called Outsiders on WGN. Before that show, I had some longer hair, and I had a lot of people used to tell me, "Oh, you look like Opie from Sons of Anarchy." I had never watched the show, so I didn't know who they were talking about. Even to the point where I was out at my cousin's wedding in California, and one of the workers there, he's like, "Can I take a picture with you? You look just like Opie." And I'm like, so finally I looked up who the guy is. I'm like, "Oh, okay, yeah, I can kind of see it." You know, I didn't even still think about who he was or anything like that. But then we have, some people, we have a lot of different databases that we have online where we can put our other information on, and stunt coordinators can find people that they need through these databases. So I saw a post on one of those Facebook saying that, "Oh, I'm looking for a double for this guy." It was a picture of him. I was like, "Oh, that's the guy that people tell me I look like." I was like, "I wonder how tall he is." And then I started looking at, "Oh, we're right around the same height. I'm a little bit taller, but." So I contacted the coordinator, but even before I did, a local guy from here, Detroit, named Ely Barda, who's a great stunt man. He's done a million things. The guy is amazing. He had responded on that. He's like, "Oh, I got a guy for you." So he already kind of vouched for me. So I got lucky. I met the coordinator, started letting the hair and the beard grow out even more, and ended up getting the job. And I did all of his stunts for 2 seasons on that show, all of his ATV riding, all of his fight scenes and stuff like that. And yeah, he's a great guy, man. And we hung out here. He's coming to Detroit to do some work with Harley Davidson Detroit and stuff like that. And he's just a sweet guy, man. One of my favorite people. And he kept me on for 2 seasons.
You know, it just seems real zen, low key kind of.
Well, yeah, he's a Sikh. He not full on Sikh, but he practices yoga. He teaches Kundalini yoga. He's very in tune with himself and his spirituality, and he's just like I said, just one of the most honest and sweet guys. And he was great to work with. Very collaborative on fight scenes and stuff like that. We had a lot of the same mindset of how we wanted the scenes to look, and so it was a great working relationship, and I had a blast.
Now, where did you guys film that? Wasn't it in Pennsylvania?
Yeah, that was in Pittsburgh. It's supposed to be in the deep south of the mountains of Kentucky, but yeah, we filmed it in Pittsburgh. It's actually pretty funny. Most of the outdoor scenes or sets were built at a Jewish community center at the top of a mountain in Monroeville, Pennsylvania, or just outside of Pittsburgh. So a lot of people wouldn't expect that was going on. And we were shooting AKs back there. We were flipping ATVs, doing all this stuff, and back in the little woods of this Jewish community center. And people knew something was going on back there, but they weren't sure what.
Right.
We're running out of time, but I wanted to get to Dave about his one man show, The Swamp Hole. What is a swamp hole?
Oh, so, no, that wasn't a one-man show. It was it was a stage play, and based off of the exploitation movies from the 70s, like the Gator Bait and those fun swamp movies, with the vigilante justice, the young female lead and exacting vengeance on the hillbilly clans. And so it was a stage play, and we'd ran it in Chicago, 20-ish years ago, and it did pretty good. And it's been revived a couple of times since by different people, and it had a run off Broadway in New York, and that was it's a lot of fun. So I still try and dabble in theater as much as I can, not as a performer, but selling the plays off.
Well, I think you've had a pretty extensive library of what you've done. I've seen 60 or some off-Broadway plays or something like that, and then playwrights, and then so I'm really looking forward to The Sin Bin, starring Jay Adams, featuring Terry and Gary, coming to a theater near you, hopefully 2021, early 2022.
Right.
So we'll start the fundraising now. Can you guys chip in?
Yeah, I got 5 cents, I think, laying somewhere.
Okay, so that'll pay for Jay.
I'll sell my autographed copy of Rotten Tail.
There's 15 cents now. Okay, we're getting there.
I've also got an autographed copy of Rhino, Steel Cage Warfare, Vinny Scarbione versus Rhino, so I could.
Oh yeah.
Up to about $1.50.
Hey, at least one of those guys knows how to work, so that's good.
Hey, if you have some peanuts,
Vinny?
I'll be looking for them.
But before we go, I'll just tell everybody where you guys can be found, social media stuff. Dave, you go first.
Sure. All my handles are at Abnormal ENT, so Abnormal Entertainment, and you can find me online at davidchayes.com for all kinds of fun crap.
Anything coming up?
Yeah, so there's a bunch of graphic novel stuff coming up. So Dial P for Peanuts will be out pretty soon. That's the grown-up Peanuts characters are invited to an Agatha Christie murder house and bumped off one by one. So that'll be out. That solicits in a couple months. And with Son of Rotten Tail will be debuting next year-ish.
Jay?
I'm just Jay Adams Stunts at Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all that stuff. Everything's been shut down as far as filming since March. Things are just now starting to come back. But I have put in a couple auditions for a new show, actually with Stephen Amell, that's going to be shooting in Atlanta, all about pro wrestling.
Oh, cool. Cody Rhodes is in that too.
Yeah. So I'm hoping something will happen with that. But we'll
Was
see.
it Heels? Is that it?
Yeah, Heels. I was actually up for one of the recurring roles. Unfortunately, I didn't get it, but they're still having me send in auditions for a couple other roles. So I'm hoping we'll see. Hopefully, something will come of it. So.
But you're also big in the charity work too. I know you have a celebrity Red Wings game. Is that?
Yeah, I play a celebrity game every year against the Red Wing alumni, Detroit Red Wing alumni for United Cerebral Palsy. And unfortunately, this is our 20th anniversary. It was supposed to happen in March. Obviously, with COVID happening, we had to shut down this year. But we're trying to look for different alternate ways to possibly do it. Maybe film it and show it on Fox Sports Detroit, something like that. Because we'd like to do it before, instead of having to wait until everything opens back up and wait till next year. We'd like to try to do the 20th anniversary. But you could always go to skatewithoutlimits.org and donate for United Cerebral Palsy of Detroit. And it's a great, I work with a lot of different charities. I work with the Joe Koster Foundation and his charities as well. But this one's kind of close to me. I'm part of the board, the committee of doing the game and everything. And it's a lot of fun. We raise a lot of money for a great cause. So hopefully we'll be able to do it this year. Regardless, please go to skatewithoutlimits.org and donate. Look for Jay Adams. Look for the players. Donate under my name. It's all good.
Nice. Terry, you got anything to say?
Gary, I'm still wanting to talk about this friendship.
I know I've got like 6 texts. Are you serious? What are you talking about?
Yeah.
I'll text you later. Stop sending me memes.
Not gonna lie.
But hopefully one day we'll get the IWR going here again pretty soon. Maybe we'll get a fatal 4-way match, me and you, Jay, and David Hayes up there.
I am retired, but you have a good buddy of mine. Well,
You
you
get
got
an
a good,
elimination because the first person to touch me is just going to take me out.
well, you got a good buddy of mine that has been working with you, Darren McCarty, and
Yeah.
so
Oh,
when
yeah.
you do get a
You can't
when you
wait.
do get a show going, I might come down and I don't want I've known Darren for like 20 years. I used to bounce for his band, so I've always been kind of protecting him. So I don't know, man. I don't know if I can let him go to a wrestling show without me, without the protection. So you never know who might show up.
Hey, I mean, if he bounced a check way back in the day, you can always hit him from behind, and we can set up a match between you guys. You know,
Yeah,
look
nothing
what
like
happened
pulling
to-
a
Hey, look what
story from
happened
30
with
years ago.
Right.
Yeah.
Look what happened with Andre and Hogan. They were friends for 20 years, and next thing you
Exactly.
know, Andre turned on them. So
Exactly.
Why don't you tell
I'm
everybody?
throwing money there.
Yeah, I don't know if Darren's gonna. I don't know if I'm gonna let him body slam me though. I don't know.
Right.
Who do we
Hey,
got
thanks,
next
guys,
week?
for coming on. We really appreciate
on
it.
the
Gary,
show.
you want to close us out?
Yeah, I was gonna say next week we got AEW's resident dentist Britt Baker coming on the show, so that should
Nice.
be pretty fun and interesting. I can't wait. And in 2 weeks we have Michael Lasky. He's a Power Ranger and from Colt from I can't remember the Three Ninjas movie. Yeah, and he's supposed to actually fight Blake Foster, another Power Ranger, in MMA style fight. So we're gonna try to get both of them on, but for sure we have Michael Lasky coming on in 2 weeks. Britt Baker next week. It was awesome having you guys on. You're a bunch of fun. I mean, I could probably talk to you for another half hour, 45
Right.
minutes maybe.
Oh.
Well, thanks for having me on, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah,
Hey,
thank you so much.
Thank you guys for your time.
And you guys can check us out here on Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, and iHeartRadio here pretty soon. And of course, on the Facebook page, Terry and Gary's Low Expectations Podcast. All right. Thanks, guys. We'll see you soon. I'm waiting for that call for Sin Bin.
Executive producer Jay Adams.
I got to text him.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
I'll text
you
him.
get some of that Darren McCarty money. We'll
Yeah.
get it. We got it. We got this. It's all good.
Big budget. All right. Thanks, guys. We'll
All
see
right,
you.
thank you guys.
Bye.
Thank you guys.